Hey, everybody, and welcome to another episode of Design Recharge. I'm so excited. Jason and I were talking before, and so I lost track of time. So I'm sorry I took up a minute of y'all's time and Jason's time beforehand, but I'm excited to have y'all all here. We have Jason Carne back. He was on in September, and we had so many questions I didn't get through, and he's so great to interview. So I wanted to have him back. So, Jason, thank you so much for coming back. Excited to hear about all that's going on.
Yeah, thanks for having me back. Glad to be back again. It was fun last time, so I'm sure it'll be again.
Cool. So if you guys have any trouble hearing either one of us, just tell me in the chat over there and I will get busy fixing it. And if anybody has questions, you can type them over there if you're new to Spreecast, or you can type them in the question box, which is kind of below Jason over there. I'll hunt for it at the bottom. So it's a little easier if you type it over there. Great to see Alma. Great to see everybody. Sean, Ashley, Andre coming from Spain. So Jason, excited to see you guys. All right, so we're gonna get busy. We did have a question from the audience because I do send out my questions to the subscribers. They get to know what's going to be asked beforehand. And Catherine had this question about she's about to graduate, and we're kind of digging into Jason's entrepreneurial part. And we're going to get some history and how he does some things specifically in this episode. So she says she's about to graduate and start her career as a designer, and she wants some advice for finding clients and building a presence in the freelance community. And you've obviously done this really well. Can you kind of give us some insight into what you would tell her to do?
Um, well, I'd only say that like your degree is only as good as you are as a designer. A lot of times, like these people go and get a degree, and their work isn't necessarily the best. And most of the designers I know that are successful have great work. It doesn't necessarily matter if they have a degree or not. Their work speaks for itself, and that's what's going to get them hired. So if you constantly do good work, push yourself, and pump out stuff, even when you're not being hired by clients, just do personal projects, and people will take notice of that. They'll start seeing you become more noticeable and everything. And I think that's really the best way to get clients is to just consistently do good work. When I was starting out, I had to do a lot of cold calls and just emailing companies that I liked. Can I do something for you? I'll do it at a discount. But now, I mean, I haven't emailed a company directly for work in a couple years probably. They just come to me now through either Dribble or elsewhere, just because I'm constantly blasting every social media outlet I can with as much work as I can and trying to constantly outdo my past work. So I'd say really that's the best way to do it.
And I think you're always also trying new things. You don't just have one specific thing that you do. You try new materials, and you also show a lot of process work.
Yeah, that's actually pretty big is process. I've noticed on Dribble and a few other places that my process shots usually do better than the final, actually. It's not necessarily that I think the final isn't as good, it's just that people are more interested in how things are done rather than the completed project. Um, like some of my best received work is just those angled typical camera shot of me holding the pen drawing something that everybody does, but it works. It's some trick. I don't understand it, but it works, and it gets people more interested. I mean, I love posting all the final projects because I'm glad with how they come out, but the process is always what kind of gets the biggest results out of people.
Cool. All right. So last time we talked about how you got started as a letterer and a designer. You started out in architecture school.
Hmm.
Um, so have you always had that entrepreneurial spirit, or has that been something that's kind of um, come out since you've started doing this?
Um, I didn't have it when I was younger, when I was like in high school and everything, because I thought starting a business was just so complicated and outside of my reach, that I need a couple of people to do this with me. I can't do it alone. But after I worked a few jobs and I saw how much I hated working for other people, I was like, man, I can't deal with what this boss is saying. I don't like these people. I don't like this company. I don't like what I'm doing. Like I don't want to sell computers or do telemarketing anymore. It's just I don't care. It's nothing that matters to me. So I want to do something I'm passionate about. And I mean, really, lettering and design is one of the only things that really makes me very happy every day when I wake up. I just go and I draw things for money. What's better than that? I mean, all the other complaints, that people have about design, like, oh, clients suck, this sucks, it's nothing in comparison to other jobs. I mean, I was digging concrete footings through 4 feet of snow on a construction site a couple of years ago. Like, it's not that bad as a designer. So, yeah, yeah, I would say that my entrepreneurial spirit started when I got fed up with other people's problems and companies, and I just wanted to do it for myself and just cut the middleman out and just make my own money and not, make somebody else's dollar.
All right, so I'm putting you on mute for a second so that because we're having a little bit of feedback. Can you put your headphones on, Jason? He said yes, I think. So anyway, sorry. So I, I'm muting him again so you don't hear me. So he can hear me. We're gonna go to the next question. I started when I was a kid. I didn't know it was entrepreneurial. Just so y'all know, not that you care because it's about Jason, but I when I was in fourth grade, I had a catalog of bookmarks, and so it was called the Bookmark Maker. And I don't know where this catalog is, but I guess I always had that kind of entrepreneurial spirit. I mean, I've had a job, but I've always had my own company too. So I think it's good. Hopefully, Jason, talk and see if there's any feedback.
Yeah, is everybody hearing me fine now? Is there no echo, reverb, anything?
I liked Lenny's comment. Obviously, talking about Jason, Diane's face is usually silky smoothness. So he was saying about your woodsman beard. Thank you for not.
Well,
Yeah,
I'm moving
I
to the woods of
took
Pennsylvania,
care of
so I have to
mine.
fit in.
It looks good. I think it looks great. So last time we talked about how you use Dribble.
Mhm.
And I think you said there were like stalkers, companies will just go and roam kind of dribble and then they will contact you and how it's played a role in you getting jobs. Can you talk about how you share what you post? Because you don't post everything on Dribble. You post some different things on Instagram and some of your other stuff. So can you talk about what you post there and what you don't and why?
Instagram is more for personal stuff. It's not necessarily straight design like Dribble. Like I post, records I go out and buy and books I get and just any like random quirky stuff that I find at an antique shop or something that I like or something strange on the street. Now that's just Instagram stuff. But I will throw work on there too because that's what a lot of people know me for is the design work. And a lot of that same crowd follows me on both platforms. But on Dribble, I like to do um, a lot of the process stuff because, like I said, that's really what gets people's interest. That kind of brings them in when they see, like the pens scattered all over the table and the piece of paper with the writing on it. When I just post a standard screenshot of something that's finished, it doesn't seem to get so much attention because it kind of blends in with a lot of the stuff that's on there already. Like if you're not like a web designer or like a UI person or something on Dribble, like it's hard to get attention because if you go to the popular page, I guarantee every day it's some GIF about some mobile app that somebody made, and that's what everything is. I mean, not that that's a bad thing because I mean I really respect those people because I can't do that. It's they're great with their development and everything. It's an art form in itself, but Dribble just doesn't have that big hand lettering presence. I mean, some guys do well there, like John Contino and Drew Melton and a couple others, but for the most part, it's kind of takes a back seat to all the digital web stuff. But yeah, I'd say mostly all the hand drawn stuff is what I try to throw on Dribble most often. I mean, I've been showing my vector work, but it's just not taking off as much. So I just kind of gauge community response to see what they like, what they don't, and that's how I tailor what I post to each social site.
Cool. So where else are you posting? You're using Instagram to kind of your everyday, showing what you're finding. What else are you doing that you think is helping get you work?
Um, Well, through Instagram, I always forward it through to Tumblr, Twitter, Facebook, so it's like a four-in-one post. So in that way, that my work is kind of being thrown across four platforms at once, which is pretty good. But aside from that, like Behance, I never really liked it. I never got how it worked. It's just confusing to me. I don't like on Dribble where you can just look at everybody's work and you can look at whatever the newest post was. I don't see a way to do that on Behance unless I'm just missing it. So like I don't know how you get found, kind of like you post work and nobody notices, kind of thing. So I just never really bit into that. I mean, on LinkedIn, I'll go on there, add up a bunch of companies, CEOs and marketing directors and stuff that I like, just in hopes that they'll, maybe look at my stuff by chance. So that's really all I do for social stuff. Dribble has been the driving force in all of my jobs for the past couple of years. Like I'd say 90% of my work comes out of there. I post on Minties once in a while. It's
That's
a
cool.
it's a t-shirt apparel site, but I don't do it nearly as much as I used to. When it used to be called Empties, it was run by those guys at Big Cartel, and it was a really
Mhm.
popular site. But they kind of closed it down after a while because it was just draining their resources. It had huge servers and too much money to run it every month or something like that. I don't remember the exact reason, but they lost a lot of traffic when that website shut down and became Minties. So it's not really as good as it used to be. And the jobs that people do post on it, they're like, "Can you do a logo for $40?" And no, so try again somewhere
I
else.
can, but it won't be for you.
Yeah,
Yeah, maybe for your mom,
yeah,
but
right.
so we kind of already talked about this. So your Instagram is more personal, and I have the statagram. I think it'll come in flip. We'll see. I'm gonna pull that up there. It kind of gives you the best of. I think. Did you do this, or did Statagram put together the best of?
Statagram does it. I think it just pulls statistics off of your Instagram and it just picks like the top five most liked things that you've had within, a certain amount of months, I guess.
Right. Yeah, that's what I thought because
Yeah.
I got one too, and I just wanted to make sure you. So we'll see if it'll play. I guess you guys will have to hit play on your own. But oh yeah.
Oh yeah, it does work. Okay, that's cool. I don't know if it would play a video or not, but yeah.
Anyway, yeah, I thought it looks really good, Drew. Also for being, I thought it was a really nice kind of, and I really liked that Design Recharge was in there. I was pretty pumped that that
Yeah.
was in your thing. Um, oh, I'm sorry it stopped playing. I probably took it off the air, Inca. You can watch it on the replay, I guess, or I'll give you a link in a second. Um, it's on Jason's Instagram, so let me just pull that and I'll share it with you, and then you guys can watch it whenever. And I'll share this later as well. So there's his Instagram. Um, so so on LinkedIn, and I know this isn't on my questions, but so LinkedIn, I don't know, maybe a year ago they started so that you could add images to and like projects. Do you
Yeah.
do stuff there since you're so you'll add images to LinkedIn as well?
Yeah, I put up like two or three projects that I really liked. I did that plain view poster, that 18 by 24, that was like super detailed for War Paint Press, and trying to think what other ones I put up there. Maybe that make something one with like the saw
Mhm.
blade and the clock and everything and the wood lettering. So I just threw up a couple things that I thought were like my best work, and from there they can gauge whatever I could do for my website. I figured I didn't want to kind of overload that because I think you need to pay after like two or three projects anyway on there to add extra stuff.
Oh no,
Oh, you don't?
you can
Oh,
put
okay.
on. I don't have to pay.
Oh, I thought I remember there
Put
being
it on.
something where you had to pay after a certain amount of projects, but I guess not. Maybe that's something else I was thinking of. I don't know.
Well, they hadn't billed me. I have a few projects, so I mean, I have more than two. I probably have 10
Okay.
or 12 or something projects. So, and I'll even put design recharge episodes up on there too, just in case somebody's connecting. Everybody likes their own network, and everybody, so you kind of got, I think you have to kind of be everywhere
Yeah.
a little bit. And that's one reason I like Instagram as well, because you can, in one swoop, kind of get a bunch of them taken care of.
Yeah, exactly. It's nice
So,
and easy.
yeah.
Time saver.
So last time we talked, yeah, and boy, who has a ton of time? I'm sure you don't have a ton of time either. Um, Oh, there's a cap. It's 20. So thanks, Jason. Frostum. He says it 25 or 50 unless you're a premium member.
Oh
All
yeah,
right. Well,
that's
I hadn't
still a
gotten
lot
to
though.
that.
Yeah, you could 25 projects is plenty. Yeah, so that's good.
Yeah. Yeah, so that's all. Thanks for the info.
Yeah, thank you.
No problem, Laura. I'm glad you showed up. She said she was sorry for being late. All right, so here we go.
Attention
Last
after
time you talked
class for
about
being
opening an
late.
Etsy. um, yeah, I don't say that when I'm teaching class, though. You better be on time if you're my student for that. But anyway, last time we talked about you opening an Etsy shop, and you actually have done it. I went there, I found you, so
Yeah,
I think I have the
it's
link.
empty,
But
but it's
but
it's
you,
made.
I,
It's not.
but you have a start.
Yeah, it's
Um,
1/100th of the way there. It's going. But I
but you have to start somewhere.
yeah, it's just I have like this high standard of like when I go to sell something that it needs to be presented so well. So I need to like get a photographer and like a lighting rig and all this extra stuff to throw around it to make it look like a good picture. And I'm just never satisfied with something I take at home. Like I set it up against the wall. I'm like, ah, that looks ugly. So I need to just get everything together one day and just do it. I'm in the middle of a move right now to Pennsylvania, so everything's kind of hectic. I haven't had a chance to do as much of stuff as I wanted to, and half of my equipment is up in Pennsylvania already, and it's just so after this month, everything will slow down a little bit, and I'll be able to really do it justice and get all my stuff up there that I've been wanting to for way too long now.
Well, cool. I'm gonna find it. It's didn't. I guess I didn't load it, but I'm gonna find it right
Okay.
now and see if I can pull it up. But anyway, then that way we can. I think I put it on my. I put it on the last design recharge underneath. It's there. Let's see if I can pull up the store. Um, and anyway, so it's there, so people can click and find your store.
Okay.
And anyway, for some reason, it's just coming up with people. And when I click on you, it doesn't go anywhere. But we see what your favorite shops. So I guess we could buy you a good gift.
Yeah, that'd be nice.
So
I'll
that's
take
always
it.
good.
Free stuff's good.
Okay, so um yeah, yeah. Um so Dribble, Etsy, other visually focused sites. How important is photographing? And so you just kind of mentioned that. I think your photos look great. Um
They're all right. They're good enough to post, I think. It's not like I'm not a photographer by trade or anything, so I don't know enough about lighting and exposure and everything. Most of my photos when I take them right out of the camera just don't look that great because they're indoors and I don't have a lighting rig. Um, but I can edit them good enough in Photoshop to at least send them out and put them on the internet. But when I want product shots, I'm actually gonna hire
well,
somebody who
I
really
think
knows what they're
you do
doing.
great.
Oh, thank you. But just go for the best, quality over everything. So
Well, so with the, I was thinking about this one when I asked this question. So I'm going to pull it up. And if you're new to Spreecast, I'm the only one that can take it off, but you can move it around. You can mouse on it and then mouse off of it and then go back on it and then you can move it to wherever you want. Just click and move it so you don't have to have it on top of Jason's face or something. Um, but I mean, I thought this was a really nice, you have a really nice background. And so how much time goes in and are you just using natural lighting then? And what kind of camera are you using?
I use a Canon T2i, and I just pretty much use a standard 18 to 55 millimeter lens for all my work. I don't throw on any macros or anything like that. But the lighting is usually just, lamps that are around the room. It's not real lighting, so it's all like that tungsten bulbs and stuff like that. So you have to always correct the coloring and everything. But the background for this piece is
Hmm.
actually the blueprint for the funeral home that I live above. So that's where we got it from. So yeah, we're moving out of a funeral
That's
home
cool.
and into a house away from all this, and it'd be a lot nicer. But it's it I probably took, I mean, maybe 15, 20 minutes for photography set up on this piece. Usually I spend anywhere between 10 to 30 minutes on just prepping it, making sure I get like a decent angle and it looks good enough to present. I try not to just take the first photo I take, just throw it on there. I take as many as possible. And but yeah, it's very important to have a decent photo. I see all the time people just posting stuff with their camera phone, and I mean that's passable for like Instagram and stuff like that. But if you want to post on your website or even Dribble or Behance or anywhere like that, good product photography is a must, and it really represents, the fact that you care about the quality of the imagery you're putting out.
Right. Definitely. So with your process shots, same thing. You're using your camera. Are you putting it on a tripod and then taking it
Um,
like with a?
Usually I just do it handheld. Sometimes I'll use a tripod and I'll put it on like a timer so I could get the shots where
Mhm.
I'm like actually holding the pen and stuff, because otherwise it's kind of tricky.
Mhm.
But yeah, for the most part, it's all just right here in this little office or the next room over, which is the living room slash bedroom combo. So that's really the two spots I take all my pictures. So that's pretty much it.
Well, you have nice angles. Do you study other people's work, how they're photographing it, and then, or does this just come straight out of you?
I never really pay attention too much to other people's photos, so I guess it's just what I think looks right to me. I guess a lot of people on Dribble do similar style photos, so maybe I subconsciously kind of picked up that style of photography, but
Right.
it's just what comes natural to me and how I think it looks good. Because I think like straight on shots, while they show the piece like for exactly what it is, aren't quite as interesting as something that's a little bit skewed or that shows how it would be sitting like in real life off to the side or something. So I like it just being a little quirky like that.
Well, and also just even the background image, choosing whatever this, the blueprint is, it helps tell a story and it makes it a real place. And then it's that, I know that the blue is a cool color, but it's really warm on this piece of wood. It really warms that piece of wood up. So it's really nice. Anyway,
Thank you.
and I know you did this piece. We talked about it at WNC Fest. You were just whipped this sucker out, I guess, right?
Yeah, I was just doing it in between, talking to people that were coming up to the booth. It was just something to do in my spare time. And I'd never done it before,
I
so
wish
I
I
like
could
trying
do that.
different stuff.
Yeah, that's awesome. I think that's great. So last time, this was a question I wanted to get to, but we didn't get to. So I just kind of copied and pasted some of the old ones. So maybe it's not recently anymore, but sometime in the past, you wrote about crowdsourcing. I'm going to read it because there's a quote. And why you're so against it. You made an excellent point. And this is what you said. You wouldn't take your car to be serviced by a freshman at a local vocational school, so why would you leave your brand image to the same breed of designer? First impressions only happen once. Pay to have the best one possible. And I agree. I think your image, I was explaining a brand, a brand is more than just the logo. It's everything that goes with it. It's like your whole closet of all your clothes, and your brand is your logo might just be one outfit, but it's everything of how someone walks into a store, and it's that whole piece needs to be thought about. So you spend a lot of time researching when you're doing a logo for someone, but can you talk a little bit about why this was so passionate that you wrote about crowdsourcing?
Well, first off, it kind of devalues the whole industry that I work in just to say, oh, here's, a project for you, 1,000 people. All of you do it, waste your time, and not get paid for the one person that may get paid if we like it. That's always the stipulation at the end of it. And then, maybe you'll get some free stuff for $50 or something like that. That's, just because it's for some big company doesn't mean you should do it. I mean, cool, you have a big client, okay, but you have no integrity, because you just spent hours and hours on this piece that they're just going to use and make, who knows how much money off of, and you see nothing for it. So that kind of bothers me, obviously, but and the other thing is that, a company should take pride in their image. Why would you want somebody who's going to be doing something for free to do it for you? Because you want somebody who's doing this as their trade, as their profession, somebody professional to really, do this for you, not somebody who has no experience and Ooh, phone.
Sorry,
It's
I
okay.
hung up on them.
But yeah, you want somebody experienced, somebody who's been in the game for a while to do your project for you, not somebody who has no experience, like I was saying. You gotta take pride in your brand's image all the way through, not just a logo. It's got to be in your packaging, your advertising. Because the second I see something cheap for a company, I really don't want anything to do with it. Like if, as a consumer, like if you pick something up and it's made of like cheap plastic or something, like, oh, why would I buy this? I could get this nice one made of metal or something over here. You just need to think of quality above all else. I mean, I understand there's budgets and there's certain amounts of money that you can allot for certain things, but don't skimp on quality, especially with your image.
Well, my friend Ben Hannum, he talked about he did this in a typography class to teach just about how yeah you may think this is great, but it's not so great. So think about he said, okay, everybody, I'm gonna give you some chocolate today, and he brought Hershey candy bars, and they were like, oh my gosh, this is great. And then he said, okay, well now, and then he went to like a gourmet chocolatier and had and made them try some of those, and it's like, oh my goodness, they can't even imagine. Not that Hershey's is bad, but they couldn't imagine that they thought that Hershey's was good after they had something that was so good and done by such an expert, and you just get so much more if you spend a little bit of extra money and because somebody else spent the time and the knowledge to make it a great way.
Absolutely. Like when I was working for that sign shop, a couple towns over, people would come in with like their trucks or, this design that, their nephew did or something. And it was real bad, like real bad. And then they'd be like, "Oh, I love my design. We've been using it for years." Like, yeah, but it's no good. It's not. So we would design them something just quick, just to show them what it could look like. 15, 20 minutes we spend on like, look, this is what you should be using. They'd be like, "Oh, wow, that's incredible." Yeah, let's do that. Well, if you just weren't so set in your ways, with or um, fine with mediocrity, you could have this awesome piece. Just take some time to appreciate, artisans and people doing their stuff, that are experts at it who have been doing it for years. Like the landscapers that come in with their terrible trucks and everything, and it's always like the same, stretched, ugly Helvetica, just slapped on crooked on their door and everything. And they just need a nice logo to stand out from the crowd, and that's really all we're trying to do is give them something a little bit better. But a lot of people just don't even want to see it, which is unfortunate.
Well, and a lot of people don't realize, I say it's like eating visually. It's if it's all you're doing is eating what's around and you're never looking at good design, then you're not going to produce good design. But a lot of people don't realize what good design is because they aren't around it enough. So they just think that that really stretched whatever is great design.
That's true, and there's also
And
that attitude that good enough is good enough when it's not. Why settle for that when you could have
right,
much more?
right, definitely. So let's talk a little bit about how you research your clients. So if you had a logo, and I know one of the reasons you like, um, well, I'm going to skip. Um, I'm going to go to number 13. I'm not that anybody else is following along, but I'm going to skip and then we'll go back. So in our last interview, you talked about how you have had many offers to go full time with companies, but you really like working for yourself, and because you get to do a lot of different kinds of things. And if you were working at American Eagle or something, it would be the same kind of design every day. And so with by doing stuff for yourself, you get a more broad, you get to taste different things, I guess.
Yeah.
So when you're doing a logo, and you had done some illustration work for a logo for the give and take, I think the little
Yes.
heart with
Yeah.
the arrows from last time. Um, so have you gotten to do any more illustration since that? So since posting, doing?
Yeah, I do it occasionally. It's not a major facet yet in my work, but right now I have a pretty big project that I'm working on. I'm doing three posters all for this company called Fan Gamer. They're a pretty big game merchandiser, and it's for a pretty major video game that I can't really talk about. But it's pretty cool. It's a game that I grew up playing for all my childhood years, so it's great to be able to work on it, and it's real illustration heavy, with type and everything and lettering. But I'm pretty excited about this project, definitely. It's fun to be able
That's
to
awesome.
switch it up and do something a little bit different than what everybody is always asking of me. Not that I don't love to do lettering every day, but I like to be able to, you know, stretch out a little bit, do something out of my comfort zone and out of what people know me for. That's why I've been posting like a lot of vector work on Dribble lately to show people that it's not just these rough, sketchy drawings. They can be, really clean and, perfected and everything. No, it's not Cubert, but
I loved that game.
yeah.
Maybe. Anyway, so we'll talk about how what do you put into what kind of research do you do for like a t-shirt design as opposed to a a logo?
Well, logo is definitely more in depth because that's like the building block of their whole graphic foundation for their company. That's going to go on everything from business cards to advertisements to, tags, everything. So a t-shirt is something that's usually only printed once in one spot, but I mean, it still needs to retain that same level of quality. So not the same amount of research would go into it. Unless it's something that's like has a very specific or obscure theme that I really have to research and Wikipedia for a whole day. But most of the time, it's just looking through their previous catalog of designs and everything like that to see what they've done in the past, what's worked for them, and just kind of build upon that and just add a little bit of my style to it. Melissa doesn't know the old video games.
It's fun. So
She's a Grand
so
Theft Auto
what
girl.
about for a so what about for which is totally different from Cubert, by the
Yeah,
way.
just a bit.
It had like a little bouncing man and he bounced up a triangle thing and you tried to make all the things a different color. It was very basic.
Oh, you know
It
what
was an
Dig Dug
80s game.
is. You've played Dig Dug.
So, well, what about a logo? So, how much time do you spend in the research of the company and the research? I mean, it's a lot more than what would go into a t-shirt. And then you also talked about in our last interview how it really has to work small as opposed and it has to work big. So there's other factors that go in. And Jason, that's not something that everybody knows, and especially like this isn't, you have picked all this up pretty much on your own. So this is stuff I have to teach students and they still don't get it. And I don't think they believe me. So that you get it on your own just from reading or learning is awesome.
Yeah, it's learning through making mistakes is really what it is. Like you design something that's fairly large, like on Photoshop or on paper, and then you take it in, and they're like, "Oh, well, we want to add this on a hem tag on a shirt, which is half inch by half inch," and then you shrink it down. You're like, "Man, that's really unreadable. Like I really should have, thinned those lines out or done something a little bit different." So now when I do any kind of logos or anything like that, I have to take that into consideration that this might be printed at some ridiculously small size, or it could be on the side of a building. I don't know what it's gonna, evolve into. This company could go huge. They could, go belly up the next day. I don't know, but they paid me. But yeah, logos take a lot more research, I think. You have to really get into what the brand is all about at their core, and you have to see what kind of aesthetic they want to go for because usually when you're doing a logo, the company is not really established yet, so they don't have a lot of past imagery to go off of and everything. So a lot of back and forth with talking, showing reference images on like Pinterest or anything like that, just to get a real strong feel for it. And usually I develop anywhere between like 3 to 10 concepts to submit to them as rough sketches to start out. and we kind of go from there. Refine it. Pick the best ones out of the group, and just go until there's a final object that's as good as it can be, I guess, for that particular brand. Like right now, I have a company that I'm doing a rebrand for, which is it's my first time doing that. Is having a company come to me to ditch their old logo and do something totally new. It's a small pizza chain in Chicago, and they have really cool looking places inside. It's a wood fire brick cafe, and so I think it'll fit my style really well, and it's something interesting that I haven't done yet. So that's going to be a pretty fun project, and it'll be cool to like research like the history of Chicago, and like because Chicago deep dish pizza is like a big thing, and to just go back into the history of that and look at the old images and advertisements from brands that were doing it 50, 60 years ago is going to be a pretty cool thing to do.
Somebody says he wants to know if it's Jason says it's if it's Lou. This person. Anyway, I'm just hanging up on them. So I hope they're not watching. Um, I hope you're not working in trade, or hope you are working in trade. He says. I guess it's really good pizza.
No, but I did put that in the stipulation that I get free pizza whenever I come to town because their counter offer was a little bit below my estimate. So I was like, well, whenever I come there, you're feeding me for free. That's the deal. But
I've
it's not
unplugged it.
lose. I totally ripped it out of the wall.
Yep. So now it won't do it. It never happens. Anyway, but so with a rebrand, there can be some issues, and even on regular branding with committees. And I know this isn't on our sheet, but how do you deal with that? I know that there are other people in here that are having issues with clients because I've talked with them, and I know other people, work at corporate companies, and they have to always go with a committee. When it's a rebrand, usually you're not just working with one person. How are you handling that?
Um, a lot of the companies I work with are smaller companies, so they don't have like this big team of people making decisions, which is good because the too many cooks in the kitchen kind of thing. That sucks
Mhm.
because it's having to please 10 people instead of one, and then somebody's like, oh well, my daughter is in eighth grade art class, and she says that this color would look better, and you get all this input that means nothing. um, so I like when there's only like two or three people to deal with at most. That's what I'm dealing with this rebrand in Chicago. It's three partners, just own three locations, and that's all I have to please. So I like that. Most of the brands are even just one person, so that's nice to just have a back and forth between the one guy who's making the decisions, and you can get on the same page, and you don't have to worry about CCing 20 other people. Like, do you all like this? And everybody wants a little change. That's way too much work. I hate doing that, and I charge a lot extra
Yeah,
for
and
that.
sometimes yeah.
Like
Yeah,
I was
there's
reading
a
an
line
article.
item for
Yeah,
that.
I was reading an article the other day. There is a put up with you fee. That's like a thing that somebody was saying.
Yep. I think many of us have probably charged people for that line item.
Yeah.
It's hard. But sometimes there's a line of them respecting you as well as them trusting you. Just like when you were at the sign shop and these people were coming in to do something on their van, it was like, hey, but this is going to say something different to your audience. So sometimes it's just about talking up or talking to the client in a way that they trust you for one, and they trust that you have researched who their audience is. And I think that has to be part of that initial research so that you can have something behind you to help.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, it does require a lot of trust between the client and the designer. And I mean, they're coming to you to give them a graphic that represents what they're about and what their business is about. And if it doesn't match or reflect what they feel is best, then it's not really going to work. So you need to, I guess, really understand their needs before you even start the project. Like before I give a quote to anybody, before any of that happens, I make sure I have a ton of information about them, and that I can just give them an exact quote because I know exactly what I'm going to do and how long it's going to take, because there's no questions left unanswered. It's not this big, you know, empty space where everybody's going to be left wondering, what's this going to look like because we've already decided pretty much. Um, it takes a lot of the guesswork out of it.
Definitely. So, well,
And that's the
talk a little
official
bit
term
about
too.
how I like that, the admin fee. Um, I talk a little bit about how you analyze and how you ask the right questions, because I think that's been critical to, for me, success as a designer is my clients usually feel heard, and I am showing them that I understand what questions to ask. Like sometimes I sort of feel like a therapist because I'm asking them questions that maybe they don't realize, and they're like, wow. And I always ask about their 5-year plan, and they're like, I didn't think about that. Or some businesses, smaller businesses, when they're doing a branding or something, they might not think about that, or to a point where they really need to. But can you talk about how you analyze them and their business, and why you think that's so critical, and what maybe has served as a something that has helped you more than you thought it would, or something?
Well, like one of the main questions I always ask is what other brands out there are doing something similar to what you want to do? Because when it's a startup, um, they have nothing. They have no T-shirts, they have no posters, products, anything yet. So it's hard for me to get an idea of what they want to look like if I have nothing to go off of, from their past. So say, for example, some brand wants to look like Vans or, Element or something like that that goes in zoomies and everything. I'm like, okay, great. That's a great point to jump off from. And then I send them a bunch of pictures, do you like this kind of style? And send me back some reference imagery that looks like what you want to do. And then, it really narrows it down to something nice and tight that you can um, put into terms for a quote and lay out for a project outline and things like that. I'm trying to think of some other questions that I usually ask. Um,
Do you have a list,
I don't really have like a
or
set
do you just let
list.
it flow?
Yeah, I usually just kind of take it project by project. I never like treat it as like an assembly line so much to where like every project is the same because each one is a little bit different and they all have their own specific needs and everything. But yeah, the biggest thing is um, like the reference imagery, just knowing exactly what style to go off of because it's a huge waste of time when they say we don't know what we want but do anything and then you do whatever you want and they're like, that's not really what we're thinking, but we'll know when we see it, or one of those lines, and that just it drags the project on for weeks, even months, when people are like that. So just getting a narrow focus on what you want is key to starting off the project. Yeah, I'll know it when I see it exactly.
That's right.
Yeah, because if
So,
if the
do you
person
do
running
mood?
the brand doesn't know what they want, how are you going to know what they want? I mean, they got to have at least a little bit of vision to start off. Otherwise, it's going to be a nightmare
Yeah.
project.
And Meredith says they always know what they don't want, but not until until you show it to them. So
Yeah.
sometimes I'll ask, I ask a similar question to what you're asking, but then I also ask, what do you not want? What do you not want to see? Um, and who doesn't do it well? But do you make mood boards for them and then send them back kind of something like that? Or are you just sending them individual images?
Sometimes, depending on the project, I'll send like a big mood board if it's a bigger project. But if it's just something simple, like if they just say, I want a monogram and I want it to look, Victorian or something, I'm like, okay, here's, 5 or 6 different styles. Look at those, and do you like any of those? And I'll base it off of, that general look and, just make it a little more unique, update it, and yeah, can I see it in every color? That's another good one. I recently
So
did a
I like
logo
what
for
Meredith.
somebody, and I have a folder of maybe 50 different colorways. It was chaos
Oh,
getting the final payment from these people. So it was, yeah. Every once in a while, I'll get one of
yeah.
those. I mean, it's not so bad because you just change the layer style in Photoshop, and here's a new color, here's a new one. But but it's still time consuming and it's just frustrating. It's those little hangups that really kind of ruin a project. I just love when it goes smoothly
Yeah.
and you just agree on everything and you're on the same page as the client. But some clients just really don't know what they want. It's that simple.
So what do you do in that situation? Like Meredith says, I'm finding it's hard for them to really articulate what they do or don't want, and it's hard to get it out of them sometimes. That's why, Meredith, I feel like sometimes it's like therapy, and you're trying to get out what they really want. And so sometimes I'll say, "Can you show me some images of some logos that you like?" And they don't have to be in their field. I can say any logos that you like, or especially if I'm having trouble getting them to articulate what they want. But what do you do, Jason?
When it starts to get like kind of crazy with the amount of revisions and everything they're requesting, like after like the sixth or seventh time of them being like, no, not really what we want, you got to be like, look, I already spent like 10 hours on this, I quoted you at such and such price, and you're going to have to start paying me more for all these extra things if you don't know what you want. I was like, I need some clarity, I need some direction. If you can't provide that, I'm just going to start billing you hourly, and nobody wants to pay more for a project they already paid for. So that kind of entices them into, being a little more lenient, changing their expectations, being more realistic about the project, because some people just want to see a million different options just because they think they can pull it from you. But you got to just be a little bit more firm in your approach and just make sure you're getting your fair amount of compensation for the amount of time you're putting into it. If you start spending too much time on ideas, like either you don't understand the project or the client doesn't understand what they want, and that both of that's bad. You need to
Right.
discuss that before pursuing it any further, I think.
That's sometimes in those big committees, it can be somebody has their feelings hurt, so they're just not going to like anything because they wanted to do it or they were, and there's all that kind of drama.
Yeah.
So sometimes it's, I think if you can get three people or one person, I think it's always best. But I think you do. You have to get them to work a little bit to give you some information.
Yeah, absolutely.
I think from the get go. So for me, I always kind of pretend like I'm their client or I really like helping businesses grow. Like that's what I really like to do. But some of my students really have a hard time. They're like, I don't want to do this plumbing company or because I try to come up with crazy companies for them to do, like tampons and they're selling everything, because I think you never know who's their clients are going to be. Um, but do you have any tips for getting motivated to work for a client? I know you've had some awesome clients that you worked for, but I know like Amy and Jen Hood, they were from Hoodspa. They were on a few in December, and their one of their first big projects was a mop company. And I mean, you should have seen this mop catalog. It was awesome, but it wouldn't have been like, oh my gosh, I hope I get to work for a mop company one day. So,
Right.
what do you do to get motivated on maybe a client that isn't so awesome,
It
or maybe in general, you don't think of them as being awesome?
it's kind of tough, honestly. I mean, if the money's there, it's hard to say no to it. Some clients, I'll straight up turn them down. I'll be like, look, I just don't think I'm right for your kind of project. It doesn't match what I do. I try to let them down nicely to let them know that I'm not really interested in that. But sometimes you just got to look at it from a different angle. Like a mop company, don't think of it, as something just that wipes the floor. I guess you got to come at it from a different angle and find something that could be interesting about it. Like go for something with cleanliness and something that's super crisp and clean and something that's not really directly related to the product, but is it in its field still. Um, it is tough coming up with stuff for clients that you're not particularly interested in. Um, but a lot of the time, you could just do something in your style. A dumpster company, yeah, that's tough too. I mean, I don't deal a lot in
And they
iconography and illustrations for logos, so most of it's type. So a lot of the time, I could get away with doing like a cool monogram or something and be like, yeah, this looks really cool, and I'll do it like in the shape of the product or something like that, and it works. It's subtle, but it still works with what their product is that they're selling, and Um, it is tough to get motivated sometimes. I have those days all the time, and it's one of the pitfalls of freelance design. I think is taking jobs on that you're not really certain where they're going to go, and sometimes they end up dragging on because of that. And you're just like, oh man, I just want to get this done and move on to the next thing. And but sometimes you just got to power through it, sit down and do a bunch of sketches until something comes out cool. Just sit
Yeah.
there in your notebook and do 100 sketches. Take like the 2 hours and just really bang it out, and maybe something will come out of it that you didn't expect at first. Maybe you'll get hit with a lightning bolt of genius and just make it happen. It's like when I was doing my clothing brand, Among Villains, that I had a while ago. I don't really do anything with it anymore. It's just I don't have time for it with my freelance work, and it's just something I'm not as passionate about. So it's just on the back burner. But for the longest time, I
Mhm.
was trying to think of like what to come up with for a logo, and then one day it hit me, and it was something I finished in 10 minutes. It was just that easy. It just came to me and it happened. So sometimes it's best to even just step off the project for a little bit and, go do something else, anything else, and come back with a fresh mindset. Or sometimes it even kicks in when you're out, out to dinner, like, oh, that would look great or something. Inspiration comes
Right.
from everywhere. So don't just sit in your room all day hoping it'll happen. Maybe just go out and you'll see something that'll spark your interest or, get a little creativity going.
That's true. I always ask people what problem are they solving, because a lot of people aren't just out there trying to make a buck. They have a product that they think will help, or they have a service that they think will help, or it's different from somebody else. And when you can get in there because they're passionate about their business, then it makes it easier. And if they can talk about the problem, like a bigger problem that maybe we don't realize, I think that helps. That kind of helps me get out of my office in my head, I guess,
Yeah.
because sometimes I tend to solve things the same. But we only have a little bit of time left, and we haven't looked at much of your work, like one piece. So I wanted to look at your type fight. So can we look at that one and you tell us a little bit about it?
Okay. Yeah. Yeah. So Type Fight was something that was around it's been around for a while now. I think it's a little over its first year. Um, but I remember that it kind of disappeared for a while. I don't know what happened. Maybe the guys who were running it just had other obligations. But when I was down in Florida a couple months ago, I stopped by Mama Sauce Print Shop, who also did my business cards. Great shop down there, good guys. And they were showing me around their place, and they had all these posters of really cool looking letters. And I was like, oh wow, what's that for? And they're like, well, don't tell anybody, but Type Fight's coming back, and these are the first 5 fights. And I was like, oh wow, these are awesome. And I was thinking about contacting them to do a piece, and like the next day they happened to email me. It was kind of weird, and they're like, "Do you want to do something?" I was like, "Yeah, sure." And so I got the letter C, which is one I've always kind of had trouble with. I can't really explain why. It's an awkward shape for me, just like a half open circle. But like C's, K's, and a couple other letters, like the off balance ones, like L's, P's, they're always a little bit tricky
Mm.
for me. But this one, I mean, it was a fun project and all, but I think I really went a little overboard with all the detail and everything. And that shows in my crushing loss that I took to Gildan because she kicked my butt pretty bad, but deservingly so. I thought her piece was awesome. But it was a fun project. I got to do one of those illuminated letters that you always see in the old books and everything that start off the chapters, and it was just
Yeah.
something I never did before. But I had the chance to do it because I had free roam to do whatever I wanted. And I mean,
I like it.
yeah, I still kind of like it. I think it's a fun piece, but it's something that I think I just did. It was like too much. Like I kept adding more and more detail, and like after I was done inking it, I was like, man, this is kind of ridiculous. It's like that was a lot of detail. But I had a
I
fun
think
time
that's
doing it.
I think that's one of the hardest parts of knowing in a painting or in a anything you can do by you're doing by hand is knowing when to stop.
Mhm.
And in design, a lot of times it's great because we can just take it off in the computer. But when you're doing it by hand, it's a little bit harder to do.
Yeah, no undo button.
So Command Z.
Yeah.
Yeah, if there was only that and a Command F, in real life, like I would never lose anything.
Yeah.
So it would be great. So let's talk a little bit about. I'm just gonna pull a couple other ones up. I know you've done some monograms, so I'm gonna pull some of these up. They're beautiful.
This one is for a company called Professional Recess. They're going to be a clothing company centered around parkour and free running and that kind of stuff. So they wanted something that kind of, flowed really nicely and was smooth, like, all the free running movements are and everything, but it still had that older, um, like ornate Victorian kind of look to it. And this is the first thing that I ever actually did that was completely with the pen tool in the computer. But I was really happy with the results. I'm pretty proud of that one. I like how that came out a lot.
Yeah, yeah, it's beautiful.
Yeah, I
All
probably
right,
did like
and then
30 PRs, on a sketchbook before I did that, because it was a when you line them up, left to right, going the same direction, they don't really work together. But the,
mhm.
the flipping it is what kind of really made that piece work, which I figured out after a while. But
So here's another one you did.
I did that one in the same week. So after I learned how to use the pen tool, I went ahead and did a monogram for the next company because they wanted something just like it. That's actually a fitness company
That's
from this
good.
lady, Jamie Michelle. She has a huge Instagram following of like 60,000 people or something like that. So she's going to be
Wow.
selling, all different fitness goods in the future. I don't know whether it's going to be just apparel or custom items, but I did a few T-shirts for her too. She was really nice. It was a good company to work with.
Cool. So then you've also done you had an issue issue cover.
Yeah, that's a funny story about this design. There's this company who came to me who wanted the design, said world change inside. They said they liked all my work from Sevenly and everything, so I'm guessing that they were a company that was doing something similar. Um, so I,
Hmm.
I did this pencil sketch, it looked exactly like the t-shirt. And I was like, okay, here's the design. Am I good to start inking it? Like, is it approved? Ink and take into Photoshop color and, be done. They're like, yeah, that looks great. Go ahead and do that. And then I sent it and they're like, yeah, we kind of want like a round design. I was like, why did you tell me to do this, when you approved it and everything? I was like, well, that's what it is. If you want me to do a whole nother design, you're going to have to pay me for another one. And they're like, yeah, well, I guess we're just not going to do it. I was like, okay, well, the design was already done. So I posted it on Dribble and I was like, yeah, here we go. Something I did, wasn't used. And Issue came to me and we're like, well, if you're not going to use it, can we use it? And I was like, yeah, sure. So um, it was a good company to give something to. They donate to charities and everything. And why not? And the guitarist from The Dangerous Summer is the one who modeled it. And I like their band. So that was cool.
That's good.
Yeah, good
I
deal.
like it. And
Yeah.
so the word issue was you did all that by hand
Oh, no. Issue is their logo.
or
That
the world changed?
Yeah, I did the world change
Okay.
inside. I just added that over there for because they do it like a monthly shirt, so I just posted that it was for November
Hmm.
and everything.
Well, I it's nice. It's a really I think it's a nice piece. It's cool to do.
Thank
I
you.
was trying to make sure I have all the questions. So somebody wanted to know if you had ever tried Society 6.
Not yet. I mean, I think I signed up for an account just like I did with Etsy, but it's like an empty store. But they make a lot of stuff, and you don't have to produce it first, which is really cool. Is that they handle all the fulfillment and everything. You don't get much money for it, I don't think. Like when you sell something for like 25 bucks, I think you get like $4, $3. But they're doing
Mm.
all the work, so I mean, I guess it's hard to complain about free money if you're selling a good deal of them at least. But they do pillowcases,
Mhm.
iPhone covers, laptop skins, everything. It's pretty cool, So somebody could take your artwork and put it on something you would have never thought to even put it on, and that's kind of cool to me.
So Michael says just start selling your prints.
Yeah, I have three
And
prints that I'm gonna be selling as soon as the Etsy shop's done and I get all the photography done for it. So I do have three that are ready to go. And no, I
so
have
on
never
on
done
your
something
site.
for
Oh, go.
Minted. I've never even seen that site actually, but the work looks pretty good on it from the link that I just clicked. Looks pretty nice.
So I think this is this your card?
Yeah, that's my business card. That's the back side of my card.
So you printed them in Florida?
Yeah, that was through Mama Sauce. They're duplexed cards, which means that they're two cards glued together for a double thickness, and then they've
Hmm.
got painted edges. It's two color letterpress with foil ink. That was the first time they've done that. They wanted to like experiment with it, and they got it done in a crazy fast turnaround time. I needed cards for weapons of mass creation, and it was like 8 days away, and I was like, I need them like now, like right now. And I got them the day before I left for weapons, and I mean that it was crazy because I had to send out the plates to get letter or carved for the letterpress and everything. So they still managed to get it done. So that was pretty awesome. I'm really happy with how they came out.
It's beautiful.
Thank you.
And I love how on your site when you hover over it kind of glows, like especially on this image.
Yeah, I have it all black and white, and then you sit over it and it comes into color. And I think that was a kind of nice feature that the web guy did for me.
Yeah. Yeah, totally. All right, so then I don't want to keep you all day, but I love this. You have some great wisdom for your 25 years. So always so impressed with that about you and things that you say and are important. So I love this one. So what was this one for? Was this a personal project?
No, this was for a company just called The Hamper. They're another company that's kind of like Sevenly. I guess a lot of these social good companies are springing up, and that's kind of a good thing because a lot of these charities need money, I guess. Um, but
Yeah.
this one was kind of fun because I got to do a cast shadow on the letters, which I'd never done before. That makes them look like they're kind of standing off the page,
Hmm.
which I'd only seen in sign books. I don't see much of at all these days. It's like an old, sign painter technique. I'm not sure if I did it 100% right, but I think the effect is still kind of cool. I was pretty happy with that piece. Symmetries, it worked pretty well, and yeah, it was just a fun piece to do. I like that one.
I like what it says too.
Yeah, good message.
Yeah. All right. So what about the eight? I'm totally like pulling them randomly. Sorry. So this is you've taken this into Photoshop, I guess, and then roughed it up.
Yeah, this is for a movie that my friend shot called Angel of the City. Um, it's still in editing right now, so it's not completely done, but they want to like pass it around to a couple different film festivals and everything. And they wanted it to have like that 80s look, like that, Mad Max Assault on Precinct, 13 and all that stuff.
Right.
Um, so doing something that was like a little bit more 80s and gritty and, urban and stuff was a lot different for me, but it's fun that it's challenging like that sometimes. So yeah, I took it in and I textured the hell out of it until I made something that looked like it was all beat up and weathered and like painted on a brick or something. So um, yeah,
Yeah.
that was fun just playing with texture. I love making new textures and stuff and just throwing stuff on the scanner bed until I find something that's cool or just a smear of paint or something like I did for the thing on the A on the left side. Texture is a fun thing to do. Make your own custom textures. It's worth it.
Yeah, it is. I'll look at something on the ground and take a picture and then use it because there's no reason you can't.
Yeah, my
So
girlfriend all the time, like when we're actually out taking pictures, she's like, "Why are you taking a picture of the wall or the floor?" So I'm gonna use that later.
there's a stain out in the printmaking room it just looks like where they brush the concrete in a funny way, but I'm like, oh my gosh, look at this. Whenever I teach that part of Photoshop, I'm like, let's go out in here and look at this, take a picture. But I don't know if they think I'm crazy or not, so they probably don't do it. um Oh, I know another thing that when I rewatch the ones, people who have come on more than once, I try to watch them again. You gave us a great tip last time. You said, and I don't know if you did this here, but this was a question when you sent me this. You said when you draw in pencil, if you scan it in pencil, it kind of gives that feel of chalk. That was kind of like a secret tip Jason gave us last time.
Yep, and it works.
Um, and yeah, so did you do that for this?
Nope, this is actually chalk. I did this on a pretty big chalkboard, but almost.
Yeah.
But there's actually things that are. that I used on there that aren't chalk, like for the black lines and the blue banner, that's actually a black charcoal pencil that I used over the chalk, and it worked. It looks just like chalk, surprisingly. And same with the thinner white lines, I used a white charcoal pencil on that. And like for November
Oh,
2013
cool.
and the women's style substance, and all the smaller stuff was actually a charcoal pencil and not chalk. But yeah, this was all hand done on a board that was like 3 or 4 times the scale of the magazine, I think. And then the same guy who's doing
Wow.
that movie, that Angel of the City, is the one who came over and photographed it, and then I prepped it for print and everything. But they also made like plaques out of
So,
this design. They handed it out to all the local businesses that won certain things, and so that's pretty cool.
oh, that's awesome.
Yeah,
That's a lot bigger than what you normally work. Because
yeah,
you like 5 by 7
yeah.
and kind of
Like
four by
these
six
tiny little
things.
things. Yeah, they're real
So
small.
that's huge, huge, huge difference for you.
Yeah, yeah. But working with chalk, I found that you can't really go that small because you're limited by like the thickness of the tool that you're
Oh,
using.
yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, there's no .005 chalk things out there. And if they were, I'm sure they'd just snap anyway.
No. So, let's see. This is something that you had talked about putting on the Etsy store last time,
Yeah.
and I still hope you do because I really think that's great.
Yep, I have
But
shirts.
it kind of shows how small you're working.
Yeah, I have I printed up like somewhere around 70 or 80 of those on shirts, and I have them waiting. They're all sealed in poly bags, ready to go. But I just need to get the shop up. But yeah, it's pretty tiny. I mean, and that's probably bigger than what I work with standard. Um, I mean, most of my stuff's even like 2 by 3, 4 by 6. It's real small, and that's the thing that went over best out of every piece I ever put up on Dribble. That's my best. That's my most well received piece I've ever done. That's had like 450 likes or something. I was blown away by the response
Wow.
that got. I was really excited about it because that was just something I did in my spare time. I was just, that's where I got the message from. Just make something, put account, because I had nothing
Hmm.
to do, so I was
So,
following my own advice and just made something, and it went over really good.
so where you just kind of went with something like quit procrastinating, make your time count, just something kind of like a something that was important to you,
Right.
and you just because that's where my thing is. I can come up with ideas for clients, and maybe I've just been doing the client work so long that I didn't ever do a lot of self promotion stuff. So I get stuck in figuring out a piece to do for me. And I can remember when I was in school, I had that same sort of issue. So, do you have any advice for me or people who are like me who want to create something, but it's hard? Like I've done a Skillshare, and like I don't like single ply toilet paper. So I have a whole thing with like no more single ply, and it looks like a banner, and but it's a toilet paper roll. But I'm like, I don't know if that's really cool or not. So it's funny to me, but
But
any advice?
yeah, I would say is to definitely write your ideas down as they come to you at the very least, just so they don't escape you. Like even if it comes to you when you wake up at 3 in the morning, you have your phone plugged in next to you charging. Just take it out and type something up to yourself. Don't make sure you don't lose that idea because sometimes your best ideas come to you and you least expect it. And you don't always have to act on it right away. Your first thought may not be the best thought to execute it on. So, play with a few different options and everything, but working for yourself is tough because every designer is their own worst critic. That's just how it is. So almost always when I'm doing something for myself, I'm like, I hate that. That wouldn't look good. And everyone's like, what do you mean? That's like your best stuff. And I'm like, yeah, no, I could have done this better or something. You notice way too much when you're doing work for yourself. You have to kind of like be a bit easier on yourself to make a personal project come to life.
Definitely.
Another
I,
one of
and I think
those is
having a group of people.
that poster you have on here,
Go
that
ahead.
coffin poster, that's another like personal project that I'm gonna be selling in that Etsy store.
Cool. What is it printed? Is it silk screen?
Yep, it's 3 colors on midnight blue French paper, It's like a pretty heavy duty paper. It's real nice in person. It's a real good color. I was really happy with it. The company that printed it, Little Mountain Print Shop, he had never done posters before, and I was like, "Well, you want to give it a shot?" And he's like, "Yeah, sure, why not?" So I let him do it, and it came out pretty awesome. So I'm really happy with it.
So Jason wants to know if that's an inspiration from where you currently live.
uh, I don't know. You could take it that way, I guess, but no, that's actually a Benjamin Franklin quote. Believe it or not.
Huh,
Yeah, but yes, it
that's
is
pretty
silkscreen.
cool. It's I love French paper. That's what I buy for my you use paperweight casket paperweight to hold it. That's
We
great.
did. We went out to sell at an outdoor flea market or something, and the wind was blowing like crazy everywhere. And we're like, what do we have in the car? And we had these casket paperweight things, so it worked perfectly because it matched the design and everything. Like, oh, that's cool. Did you have them made for it? And we're like, no, we just get them from the casket company.
That's hilarious.
Yeah.
Okay, well, I think we have just a couple more images. This one's kind of a different feel, and I know we're totally out of time, and I'm so sorry. We're gonna wrap it up. We'll be done in 3 minutes.
All good. I don't care. I'm fine. I'm freelance. I get to do what I want all day. But yeah, Illusion Records. I was real proud of this logo. This is probably my favorite logo I did all year. I really like a lot of the other ones I did, but this one was completely on the computer, and it was real challenging for me to get a script that looked like it all belonged together. Like creating letters that look like they really belong to the same font, it's pretty tricky. Doubly so with script because with sans serifs or anything like that, you could just take the same lines and just kind of copy them over and make the shapes and everything, and it's a little bit simpler. But this was, it took a couple days, but I think it was worth the effort. Um, and plus, I love music, so it was a huge, thing for me to be able to do something for a record label. They're, a new startup and everything. They don't have anything coming out yet, but from the music that the guy likes, I know it's going to be something I'll be into too. So
Well, and I like the feeling and how you've made the color of the record kind of go back, and it that looks awesome.
yeah, the record was tricky. That was like 150 layers on Photoshop until I actually got it to where it is. There's a lot of like little details in there that you may not see like at that size, but they are
Hmm.
printable. I checked. You can see them. You can make them out on small print size. So I made sure of that.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
That's awesome. All right, so we talked about the bag last time, so I'm gonna pull up the
Shop.
shop screen printing.
Yep, this is a screen print shop out of Madison, Wisconsin. Real good guys. They also own the company Wisco Kid Clothing. I did two T-shirts for them a while ago. I think we might have brought up one of the images last time. It was like the WK with the wheat sheath. It was like a Milwaukee Brewers parody, or we might have used the other one. It was
Mhm.
it said forward on it. It looked like a beer barrel from the top. But yeah, real
Oh
good
yeah, yeah.
guys. Yeah, and I thought this idea of using those banners going across the top and the bottom, that symmetry kind of was pretty cool. Because I had no idea how to like end the P or put screen printing on there at first and everything. It was tricky because a lot of the times I'm obsessed with symmetry on a logo, and S and P are absolutely not at all symmetrical. But
Right.
it ended up being pretty cool. It's this quirky shape. It looks slightly askew or something like that. It's not like a standard rectangle or diamond. It's something that just is a little bit different that I think stands out. So I was pretty happy with the results on this one too.
Well, and your stuff has so much different style. Like if we look at the next three, they're really very different. So from this to the royal potions, it's different. I
Yeah,
mean, different style. And are you using same tools though? You're still
yeah,
using your microns and your Faber Castells and
yep.
pencil.
Yeah, it's all the same stuff, really. Unfortunately, this piece is something that's just going unused. I wish it was being used because I like how it came out, but they said that the P was a little bit hard to read, which I can sort of see. But when I see, OTIONS at the end of it, like it's kind of hard to see it as anything else. Um, but that's how it is. You got to go with what the client says, I guess. And I'll find something that fits the rest of the piece a little bit better. This is one part of a pretty big poster. It's actually the thing I'm doing for Fan Gamer, so some of you may be able to figure out what game it is from this. Maybe, I don't know. But for any of you
It's
gamers
cool.
watching, yeah, thank you.
Well, and I like that it's different. Like you don't, and maybe this is why you're good at being a freelancer and what makes you successful is that you can really do some different styles. And maybe that's what helps keep you not bored. But
Yeah,
like between that, these last three, and this, the Robinson bag, the bank bag, which was for a movie. I guess it was for the same friend,
yep,
the guy that does your Vimeos and stuff.
yep, yeah, same guy, Chris Knight.
So,
And
so
this was the first time
remind,
I
I
did
know you
something on
talked
this
about
kind
this
of
a little bit.
surface. It was, something different than paper, and it was rough to work with at first because it's something that feels completely different. I mean, usually I'm working on a very tightly taped down piece of paper that doesn't move and is completely smooth to your pen, and this was anything but. It was this old army, war bag that they had from forever ago that they cut up and used as a bank bag, like for the vaults of, the fake Robinson Bank in the movie. But it was a fun project. I mean, I got to use all my metallic pens that I never get to use, and just do stuff for your friends, do stuff for your family, do stuff that, um, just for the hell of it. That's sometimes that's your best work. Like this, I think is one of my favorite pieces I did all year, and it's just something I did for fun. On a whim. He's like, "Yeah, I'm doing this movie about bank robbery thing, and we got these vault bags." He's like, "Oh, let me see what they look like." And he showed me it was like the stencil or something. It didn't look bad. I was like, "Oh, let me do something really cool for it. We'll do it when we get home." And I just did it in an hour or two, and that's what it came out to be. And I really like how it looks.
That's That's cool. Well, all three of those last three images that I showed had, they have the top of the letter have something and the bottom of the letter has a different look, but they're all three so different. And it's it's just amazing that you're doing it with your hands and you're not doing it on the computer because this is tiny. Some of this is absolutely tiny work.
Yeah, hold on one
And
second. I'll show you the size of the potion one if I could find it. It should
okay.
I should have it somewhere right around here. I just had it yesterday. I need to take my headphones off for a second.
Okay. Well, thanks for hanging out, guys. I know it's a little long, but I love having him on. He, he's so talented. Anyway, I was
That's
just
it.
talking about you, but all good.
That's all it
Whoa.
is. A potions piece. It's probably 3 by 5, maybe. It's real tiny.
Wow. Yeah. Well, I want to share how people can get in touch with you, Jason. So you guys can get in touch. I know, Melissa, how can you not? Um, so you can get in touch with him, jasoncarn.com. And then you can also find him on, and I'm going to try to copy it and paste it over there. Oh, so Peter asked, do you have a preference to work on a small scale versus larger?
Um, Definitely. I think I started off that way just because of the lack of space I really have in my office. I just had, the one desk where I could really draw on, and, it doesn't leave me space to do something on a large format. And then I got so comfortable with doing it that now I doing it any other way feels weird to me. And when you do like pretty large format stuff and you're doing like curved lines and everything, getting that exact is a lot tougher on a bigger scale. And you have to have a real steady hand to do something like that. So when you work on small lines like that, it's not so bad. It just makes everything a little bit simpler for consistency's sake.
Jason, I think the smaller, just so you know, I think that you have to have a pretty steady hand for that too.
Yeah, yeah, I
Your work,
guess.
You make it seem easy, but it's hard. I make students draw. It's like maybe a letter this big.
Hmm.
It's not that's not that big, but like 72 points,
Right.
and they have a trouble like coloring it in. And that's pretty big, but even if we go smaller, they have trouble keeping lines straight or keeping curves. I mean, I do too. So you have these pieces sometimes that the circles are like that make something, just make something, I mean, that's a pretty big circle. I know you have tools that you use as well. You use a compass. You talked about some of the tools that you used last time, but it's still, you have to ink it, and you're not
Yeah.
inking it.
No,
You're
not.
not, I mean, it takes a lot.
Yeah, I only
Even, I
use
think
guides and
working small
compasses for
sometimes.
pencils and stuff. When I take it to ink, it's just that's it. It's all freehand. But like watch like a sign painter video and watch them do something. It's like that's crazy because it's super permanent first of all, and it's pretty big usually a lot of the time. And you're working on something that's on a wall in front of you. It's not like it's on a piece of paper where you can rest your arms. You're just floating in space, and you just have to make it work right. This guy that I took a lesson from, Roger Baker, he's a sign painter. He said one time he was at a
Mhm.
letterhead convention and that they had this contest for smallest legible lettering with a paintbrush. And he took this brush that only had 4 hairs on it and did 1/16 inch script lettering that you could read. So some people have this knack for doing something really small and keeping it steady. And I mean, some people are amazing with the amount of fine detail that they could do.
Oh yeah, for sure. All right. Well, you guys, I put up all the ways to get in touch with Jason. I'm gonna really quick go through my stuff. You can never miss an episode if you go to designrecharge.org/subscribeland.html and get on the mailing list. And then I'm doing another list. Oh, and we'll check it out. I'm gonna click it so that I can check it out later, Castandinos. Um,
Oh yeah, David
and then
Smith's
if you
work.
want to get my Oh yeah, that's awesome. That's an awesome one. If you want to get the tips, I send out a weekly business tip, and today was really long. It won't be this long ever again, probably. But if you want to get on that list, it's a different list. There it is. And then if you want to be able to see Jason, he's going to be talking at Creative South. Go ahead and sign up at Creative South GA because it's in Georgia.com. And hopefully you guys will be able to come, and I'm excited to see you. Peter's going to be there too. So hopefully we'll see everybody, and I will, yeah, have fun moving. Jason Barnes said that. So Jason, thank you so much again. I can't wait to meet you in person. You're always a pleasure to have on. Thank you for going so long, and I hope you have an awesome afternoon. And I'm going to send you that other stuff I told you I was going to send you.
Yeah, thank you very much. Glad to be back again. And if you want to do a part three, I'm always open. So if that ever happens in the future, sure.
Well,
Yeah, and I'm
we
excited
didn't
to
finish.
yeah, I'm excited to meet all you guys at Creative South too. It's going to be a good time there. I'm sure it will be. I had a great time at Weapons of Mass Creation,
Yeah.
so I'm sure it'll be just the same down there, if not even better. I know Mike takes care of all of his guests and everything, so it's going to be a good time.
Melissa's having a party, I guess.
I
I'm
guess.
excited to meet both of you guys. Anyway, I'll see you guys next week. We are going to be an hour earlier. We're talking about how to get an art grant. And Gigi Rosenberg's going to be on talking about her book and how to get some money to do some art projects and design projects that you want to do. So at 12:30 next week Central Time, you can do the math for all the other time zones. And we'll see you next week. And thanks so much, Jason.
All right, thank you.
Bye, guys.
Bye.